You must undergo a radical clinical deconstruction of your professional ego to realize that the traditional concept of quality is a rotting corpse of the industrial age, a legacy metric that has been rendered obsolete by the sheer, terrifying velocity of the digital neural network. In the year 2026, the human attention span has not just shortened, it has been fundamentally re-engineered by constant exposure to high-frequency feedback loops. We are no longer dealing with customers, we are dealing with dopamine-addicted biological nodes that operate on a sub-second response threshold. In this environment, latency is not a technical glitch, it is a moral failure and a biological rejection. When a potential client or a viewer reaches out to your ecosystem, they are in a state of acute intent. Their brain is firing a specific sequence of neurotransmitters, cortisol from the stress of a problem, and dopamine from the anticipation of a solution. This is the conversion window. This window does not last for days, hours, or even minutes. It lasts for seconds. If you respond within the first 60 seconds, you are not just providing service. You are intervening in their neurochemistry. You are closing the loop while the fire is still hot. You become associated with the relief of the dopamine hit. However, the moment you cross the 5-minute threshold, the biological decay begins. The cortisol stays, but the dopamine evaporates. The brain, seeking to protect itself from the pain of waiting, initiates a search and discard protocol. It labels your brand as non-responsive, low status/dead, and immediately seeks a new stimulus. By the time you send your perfectly crafted, high-quality response 2 hours later, you are speaking to a ghost. The person you are replying to no longer exists. Their intent has moved on to a competitor who was worse than you in quality, but superior to you in speed. In the digital Darwinian struggle, the fast predator always eats the slow, perfect prey. Quality is a luxury of the dead. Speed is the currency of the living. The quality myth is the most sophisticated form of self-sabotage ever invented by the insecure mind. You tell yourself that you are refining the product, polishing the script, or perfecting the offer because you are terrified of the raw, unedited judgment of the market. You are using perfectionism as a psychological shield to avoid the vulnerability of presence. But the market in 2026 does not reward your internal standards of excellence. It rewards your reliability of signal. Reliability is not defined by how good the work is, but by how consistent the response time is. A B-grade solution delivered with A-grade speed creates a psychological bond of dependability. It signals to the client's primal brain that you are a high-energy, high-resource entity that can be relied upon in a crisis. Conversely, a lagging signal communicates resource scarcity, organizational collapse, and low dominance. You are literally telling the world that you are too weak to handle the volume of reality. You must analyze the frictionless economy. Every second of waiting is a friction event that provides a cognitive exit for the customer. In the gap between the question and the answer, the skeptical mind awakens. The customer begins to reevaluate the price, question the necessity of the purchase, and scan for alternatives. Speed is the only biological tool that closes the cognitive gap before the prefrontal cortex can mount a defense. It is a psychological blitzkrieg. You overwhelm the client's decision-making faculty with the sheer velocity of your presence. By the time they have formulated a reason to doubt you, the transaction is already complete. You are not selling a product. You are selling the elimination of the queue. In a world where everyone is waiting for something, the man who provides the now can charge a velocity premium that defies all traditional economic logic. You are charging for the recovery of their life hours, and that is a value that is infinite. Finally, you must understand the algorithmic feedback loop, the synthetic intelligences that govern the distribution of attention. YouTube, Instagram, Google are programmed to detect vitality. Vitality is measured by the speed of the interaction. If your engagement latency is low, meaning you respond to comments, leads, and signals instantly, the algorithm flags your node as a high-value interaction point. It perceives your account as a source of high user retention and pushes your signal to more people. Speed creates its own marketing. You don't need better content if your response velocity is so high that the algorithm thinks you are the center of the universe. You are not building a brand, you are maintaining a resonant frequency. If that frequency drops, you vanish from the feed. You must become mercurial, impossible to pin down, always moving, and always there. To manifest the reality of zero expectation, you must transcend the limitations of your carbon-based hardware. You must accept the brutal fact that as a human being, you are a high-latency variable. You require sleep, you possess mood swings, and your attention is a finite resource that is easily fractured. If your business infrastructure requires you, the biological entity, to manage manually approve, respond, or execute. You have built a linear cage. You are the bottleneck in your own empire. The sovereign architect does not work harder. He builds an automated sovereign layer, a digital apparatus composed of AI agents, autonomous workflows, and instant response protocols that ensure his presence is felt 24/7, 365 without the expenditure of a single calorie of his own energy. This is not customer service automation. This is presence multiplication. You are creating a version of yourself that never sleeps, never hesitates, and never fails to close the loop. The core of this strategy is the dematerialization of expertise. You must take everything you know, your sales scripts, your technical knowledge, your IOXI3 philosophical tone, and inject it into a large language model, LLM, fine-tuned on your specific data. This becomes your digital representative. In the year 2026, the gap between an AI interaction and a human interaction has closed to the point of perceptual indifference. The customer does not care if they are talking to a human. They care if their problem is being solved now. By deploying an AI-driven command center, you provide the client with the sensation of having your undivided attention at 3 a.m. You are replacing the warmth of human touch, which is usually just a mask for slow service, with the precision of instant value. You are moving from a model of human labor to a model of algorithmic rent. You must implement the instant value injection as your default response. Most mediocre businesses use autoresponders that serve as dead ends. We have received your message and will get back to you in 24 hours. This is a psychological insult. It confirms to the client that they are entering a queue. The automated sovereign uses an autoresponder that initiates the solution immediately. If a client asks for a quote, the AI generates it based on their profile. If they ask a question, the AI provides the answer and the next 3 tactical steps. You are moving the transaction toward the close while you are literally unconscious. This is asymmetric scaling. Your response capacity becomes infinite while your operational overhead remains flat. You are no longer working in your business. You are tuning the engine of your ghost. We must analyze the bit rate of trust. Trust is not a spiritual feeling. It is a mathematical function of successful micro-interactions. Every time a client sends a signal and receives an immediate, valuable response, you earn a trust token. If you collect enough of these tokens in the first 10 minutes of an interaction, you create a halo effect that protects you from future errors. However, if you are slow, you are burning trust tokens every millisecond. Even if your final product is world-class, the client will be looking for flaws because the initial lag has already signaled organizational fragility. Speed is the ultimate trust accelerator. It communicates that your internal systems are so robust that you can handle external requests effortlessly. You must audit your digital surface area and eliminate every black hole, every point where a customer's query could sit in an inbox for more than 60 seconds. Your business must be a closed superconductor. Finally, master the preemptive strike. Using behavioral tracking and predictive modeling, you should aim to provide the solution before the customer articulates the need. This is the ultimate zero expectation. If a user spends more than 120 seconds on a specific section of your video or sales page, your system should trigger an automated, personalized deep dive or incentive sent to their device. You are mind reading via metadata. When you provide the exact resource a person was just thinking about, you create a magical experience. Magic is simply technology that moves faster than the human expectation of cause and effect. In the eyes of the market, you cease to be a vendor and you become an omnipresent force. You become the only logical choice because you are the only one who is always there. You are not just a businessman, you are a utility of reality. The final realization of the zero expectation protocol is the brutal economic fact time is the only non-renewable asset in existence, and therefore it is the most valuable add-on you can possibly sell. Most entrepreneurs are stuck in the commodity trap, fighting over pennies by trying to be better or cheaper. The sovereign architect exits this trap by implementing velocity pricing. You must understand that for a high-value entity, HVE, be it a billionaire, a CEO, or a high-level performer, the cost of waiting is often exponentially higher than the cost of the product. If you can save an HVE 2 days of waiting for a critical solution, you have not just provided a service, you have handed them back 48 hours of their life. For a person whose hour is worth $10,000, that is $480,000 in recovered value. Charging them a $50,000 fast-track fee for an instant response is not an overcharge. It is a massive discount. You must stop pricing based on your labor and start pricing based on the client's time salvage. You must transform your entire operational philosophy into a high-frequency trading. Every internal process must be subjected to a latency audit. If a task takes 3 days to execute, you must ask the architectural question, how can we do this in 3 minutes? This often requires the destruction of the managerial bottleneck. You cannot have a sovereign business if every decision requires a committee or a human approval. You must decentralize your decision-making, empowering your AI agents and your sovereign trained team to execute immediately within set parameters. You are trading microcontrol for macro velocity. In a world of slow, bloated, bureaucratic corporations, your agility is your primary weapon system. You are a digital predator circling a sinking oil tanker. You can strike, pivot, and scale before they have even finished their board meeting to discuss the strategic roadmap. Your speed makes their planning obsolete. The psychology of the now dictates that the perceived value of a solution is at its absolute peak at the exact millisecond the pain is first articulated. If I have a toothache, a dentist who can see me now is a savior. A world-class surgeon who can see me in 3 weeks is a nuisance. You must match the peak of the pain cycle. By responding instantly through your automated sovereign layer, you are capturing the client at their point of maximum willingness to pay. If you allow a lag of even 1 hour, the pain subsides, they adapt to the discomfort, or they find a good enough alternative. You are losing the economic momentum. The zero expectation business is designed to harvest the peak. You operate at the point of impact. This requires an always-on infrastructure that most people find exhausting. But you are not most people. You find the speed electrifying. The velocity is the fuel that keeps your empire from stagnating. Furthermore, you must realize that speed is the ultimate marketing. In a sea of good enough products and okay services, being inhumanly fast is the only thing that creates a genuine shock effect in the consumer. People do not tell their friends about a product that worked as expected. They tell their friends about the business that responded in 45 seconds and fixed the problem while I was still on the website. You are using excellence in execution as your primary viral engine. You reach escape velocity not by spending more on ads, but by reducing your time to value to zero. This creates a level of brand authority that no amount of polished quality can replicate. You are not just a vendor, you are a reliable utility of the future. You become unreplaceable because no one else can match your frequency. Finally, you must adopt the scorched earth approach to competitors. When you enter a market with zero expectation protocols, you are not just competing, you are invalidating their existence. By providing instant access and immediate results, you make the traditional slow-moving players look like prehistoric fossils. You force them into a race they cannot win because they are tied to human-first manual processes. While they are checking with the manager, you have already closed the deal, collected the payment, and initiated the next project. You are moving at the speed of light, and they are moving at the speed of paper. In that race, there is no silver medal. There is only the one who arrived first, and everyone else who arrived too late to matter. The velocity premium is your reward for having the courage to kill the quality myth and embrace the truth of the instant.